What's up? 49ers coast to coast, West Coast Grant Cohn, East Coast Jason Aponte. We're here to talk Niners. But specifically, we're here to talk the quarterback count timeline because we're fascinated by it. We're a couple of guys who like to try to break news. We were trying to follow along this offseason, and it was very confusing as to what happened. The narrative keeps changing because Kyle Shanahan keeps revealing more information. Basically, what you need to know is you probably already know, but there was the whole Mac Jones. There was a whole lot of confusion as to who the Niners were going to take. Then they took Trey Lance, and the Niners were like, by the way, this was our guy since January, ha, 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 in your face. But then Kyle goes out on Sean McVay's podcast and was like, yeah, but in February, I really wanted Matt Stafford. So we kind of have to go back and look at the whole timeline, starting with the Super Bowl loss. So I'm going to let Jason take us through it, and I'm going to pepper in some comments as I see fit. Jason, where does this story start?
So this is something that when we were talking about it on previous shows, is something that's going to be dissected for years and years and more about this draft process because, again, 49ers are a cornerstone franchise. Getting up to pick 3, it's something that matters, and with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo discussion and everything. So let's just start at the beginning. And I hate to start here, 49er fans, but
you muted this word on
I did.
Twitter.
I did.
But it's time to talk about it.
It is the best time to talk about it. I did mute this word on the timeline. Well, let's start at the 2019 Super Bowl. So the 49ers collapse as a team, not one person. Many things when you watch that fourth quarter, I can point to and I could say, this guy missed a block, this guy ran the wrong route, this guy missed a block, he missed a throw.
It was a team effort.
Yes, it took an entire team. So it took an entire team to blow that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll start with Tom Brady. So everybody took that clip from HBO's The Shop, which is great. And I implore anybody who hasn't seen it to watch it because Tom Brady's a little bit more candid there. And I kind of like it when quarterbacks talk or professional players talk about candidly. I want candid. We made fun of Coach Speak last time. Doesn't this start with Mike? So we'll just start the way that I remember it. I remember.
Well, real quick, we'll do it like this. Would be the what do you call it in a book? The part before the first chapter.
The prologue.
The prologue. Okay, the prologue is you have to know that Jimmy coming off the torn ACL was bad in the 2019 preseason training camp. He had the 5-pick practice, and there were reports multiple from Mike Silver that short leash for Jimmy. Organization really likes Nick Mullins. They could make a switch if things go bad for Jimmy. Now, of course,
I remember that. Okay,
come to that. So that's the prologue to this story. This goes back to 2019. Mm-hmm. Good call.
And that is a good call, actually. And that actually, I mean, when we get to the end of the story, you'll understand what we're trying to do here. But part 1, Tom Brady becomes available. Yes. And I forget which month that is. And it was very much, so like I was talking about with The Shop. A lot of people alluded to him talking about you're sticking with that MFer, and they thought that he was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. We did find out he was talking about Ryan Tannehill. And when you watch that whole episode, he was talking about it was a team that he wasn't interested in, but you're not interested in me. Right. That's the stuff and he really got upset about that. So that's when you put the pieces together. The Titans are already invested in Ryan Tannehill. Doesn't make sense for you to pivot from that to Tom Brady. So it does make sense. So Tom Brady was more perturbed at the idea that the Titans didn't want him. And why don't you want me? So
especially Tom since Brady he has a personal relationship with Mike Vrabel.
Right. So
he's Tom probably Brady, older than Mike Vrabel. I don't know.
He is, right? I think he is, or he's close to it.
Yeah.
So Brady wants the 49ers. The 49ers want Brady. This has been documented. They flirted with the idea. And we all know that really what happened is Tom Brady, the reason that he was able to establish himself, I mean, he made some good money, but he was never like the highest paid quarterback, even when he was like at the top of his game with the Patriots. So at the end of your career, what do you want to do? Let's go get a bag and let's go play in my home. Well, the 49ers balked at that. And they said, listen, we're not going to give you 35, 40 million, whatever it is that you're looking for this 2-year deal. It's just not in the cards. Next day, boom, Tampa Bay Bucks.
Because remember, the Niners, to outbid Tampa Bay, you'd have to offer like, what, 10% more, 13%, whatever state income tax is for in California for the highest tax bracket. It's hefty. So, yup.
So the next day, Tom Brady signs with the Bucks. Done deal. and it was pretty clear that he wanted to be there and they wanted him. Okay, didn't happen. That's the first part of the story, because there's so many names that we have to go down the list of people that Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch have identified as replacements for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it started with Tom Brady. So Tom Brady falls through, goes to the Bucs. Bucs win a championship. Not certain that would have happened here with all the injuries, but I know that I can't say I know. He probably would have stayed upright for more games. I think that he's a little bit more savvy in the pocket to move and get out of the way of things. So, okay.
Yeah. So
that's part one. That is part one. It's part one of the story, right? So the 49ers let Tom Brady walk because they didn't want to pay him his $40 million. And, whether you agree with that or not, that's pretty much what we've gotten from everybody that we've spoken to. Okay. Yeah. Part two. This one is a little bit more of us putting pieces together. And I think Kyle Shanahan alluded to it in the press conference. Was it the press conference before the draft with the whole Mac Jones thing about it, like where he mentioned that Deshaun Watson's out there, and so he mentioned that. So
that might have been the press conference immediately after the trade. There were two press conferences. There was one in February, March, whatever, and then
there you go. That's the one. So Deshaun Watson requests a trade, and as 49er fans, we all think yes, that's the guy that you need to go get. You send whatever that you have to send. We didn't really have any sort of insight into whether the 49ers were actually interested or made any sort of offer.
Right.
But when you hear Kyle Shanahan talk in that press conference, he mentions Deshaun Watson. So the 49ers turn the rock over on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Whether internally or actually sending an offer is two different things. But again, Kyle Shanahan sees someone else to replace Jimmy Garoppolo with.
Yes.
Okay. And this one makes a lot more sense. Obviously, this isn't going to happen now because Deshaun Watson has way worse things to worry about at this point, and who knows if he's even going to play football this year. But it's more about, this is the second time you turn this around, and now Deshaun Watson's a 24-year-old franchise quarterback. That one makes sense, absolutely. I think that there's maybe 4 or 5 teams that wouldn't be interested in Deshaun Watson because they have that sort of player right there. I think there's like 20 to 25 teams that would jump at the chance and dump whoever their quarterback is.
It's a big commitment. I mean, you got to trade everything, and the Niners were willing to do it. So that just, if you felt good about your starting quarterback, you wouldn't feel like you needed to make that move.
Yep, there you go. So Deshaun Watson was another one that they turned the rock over. So do you guys kind of see where I'm going with this? I know you guys kind of see, but we'll pull it together at the end. But
yeah, I mean, it's important to point out. It seems like I'll just give a little teaser for the theme. I think you guys are pretty smart. There is a narrative out there that the Niners got Trey Lance just to beef up the quarterback room. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt now and then, but he's really great. It's just he gets hurt, and even Sean McVay said that. It's just an availability issue, and you got to beef up the quarterback room. Man, they went from Tom Brady to Deshaun Watson, and that's just part 2 of a multi-part story. We're just getting started. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about this beef theory, man. My reaction is more like, where's the beef? I don't see the beef.
Well, more than anything, it's more, again, we're talking about Deshaun Watson, so we're talking about how many teams would not jump, who would jump at this chance. All right, like I said, it's a handful of teams that wouldn't because they have their guy, they're set, and they don't require that. But any other team would have been all the way in on Deshaun Watson, okay? So you find out that obviously that's off the table now, so the 49ers pivot one more time. Let's get to part 3.
Yeah, they do. And hold on real quick. They did not pivot initially to Trey Lance. The story was that they were all in on Trey Lance from January. That's what the 49ers official narrative is, and that comes from ownership in the front office. But Kyle, gotta love Kyle. #Kyle goes on #Sean McVay's podcast and says, well, actually, I was really interested in Matthew Stafford. That was February.
Yeah, that's so the same time.
This is the impetus for us to rewrite the timeline, because the Niners official version is bogus. In February, we're talking Stafford, not Lance.
And that's the time that we're in Mobile. All that stuff happens, and our group is the one telling you guys that there's movement on this, and obviously it falls through. So whatever, we don't have to talk about that. But again, a third quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Now, there's a large debate on 49ers Twitter about whether Matthew Stafford is actually better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't even think that that's much of a discussion when you're talking about the two players. Because, and let me take the diplomatic approach. Got the report right in 2019. He didn't know anything, but he didn't know anything before the draft.
That's a good point.
See that one. Yeah. That one kind of felt like. I mean, and he's a what's the word? Wait, wasn't Stafford before Watson? No, it was after, wasn't it?
When did all the reports come out about Watson? I think they were kind of going at the same time. They were a little bit concurrent.
I could have swore that it was Watson first, and then they moved to Stafford, and they were like, "All right, that's it. We're just out on Watson." So I mean, whatever. So hard to say right there.
Hard to say. Yeah. Well, the thing was, the Texans didn't seem super eager to move him, and it seemed like a harder guy to attain. Like, yeah, if you could get him, he wanted out. The Texans were dragging their feet. The Lions were like, "We're going to grant him his wish. He's been a good team player, right?"
Yeah.
And so it was more
I love this. I love this tour of Kyle Shanahan going around and doing podcasts and opening up the curtain and letting people in on what they talk about and the things that are going on in the building. Yeah. I love that he speaks candidly, although sometimes, like I said, I wish that he would just give some generic answers at some point. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting when he was talking about Stafford and how, I scouted him out of college, and you watch the film when you're playing them, but man, when I watched him again and I started to watch him for those 2 weeks, I was like, man, this guy's underrated and really, really, really good. Yeah, the thing I was about to, well, the thing I was going to say about Jimmy Garoppolo is I'll be diplomatic in my stance here because I don't want to come off as a hater or anything like that. It's hard for 1 year of work for you to tell me definitively, and maybe there is a world that Jimmy Garoppolo never gets hurt again and he lights the world on fire, that it's in the range of outcomes. But to tell me, oh, look what he did in 2019, he's better than this guy who has done it year after year after year, has played so many years, has stacked up so much time in this league, that's the part where you lose me. You lose me there with that one. So, hey, look, is there a world that Jimmy Garoppolo, whether he's on this team this year, next year, whatever, turns into a top 15 quarterback, top 10, maybe, but you can't tell me right now that he's better than Matthew Stafford. That doesn't make any sense at this point.
And again, the Niners' official narrative was that they might have kicked the tires on Matthew Stafford, but they never made an official offer. I mean, they were just doing their due diligence to find out what he was going for. But really, Trey Lance, the guy since January, and Kyle Shanahan comes just high steps into the booth, being like, "No, that wasn't the real story. Let me tell you how it went." Thank you, Kyle. So Stafford was the plan up until he went to, that was February. Up until he went to the Rams. So we're talking February. That's part 3. The Niners in February are now like, let's go back to the drawing board again.
And one more thing too, is when you hear him talk about, I spoke to somebody and said, you can go to dinner. Nothing's going to happen tonight. And he didn't even know that Sean McVay and Stafford were in Cabo with him. So that's the part that kind of really stuck out to me, because he was sitting there waiting for this to kind of happen, to materialize. And he thought that, hey, we're gaining steam on this. I've obviously identified that this guy works. And Kyle would have known that. Kyle probably just doesn't watch games. He watches, film of other people when it's time to play them. So it's more like he was waiting. So I was going to bring that up too. So Vish made a good point. I think he either texted me or he tweeted at me. How is that not tampering?
Yeah.
You're allowed to hang out with opposing coaches while the deal gets done. I mean, unless the Lions don't care because they were making their move and they were making their deal. So it didn't matter.
I guess the Lions would have to complain.
And I think that, they were under the assumption that they were working with McVay to get this done. One more thing that I want to touch on too from that podcast that was really, really interesting. Kyle Shanahan said, if we thought that the Rams were in on Julio Jones and were a suitor, we would have been in on that. And I love the arms race. And that's what this has been the entire time in the NFC West. It's been an entire arms race.
Which it kind of explains why the Niners were in on Stafford, because the Rams
Right. So if that's the case, you can't let him slide over there because now you have problems. Say what you want.
And remember last year when the Niners said they were just kicking the tires on Jamal Adams? Well, from what I heard, it was more than that. And again, the Seahawks came over the top and had this offer that the Niners weren't expecting. But I think the Niners were, from what I heard, were very, very interested in Jamal Adams, and the same kind of thing happened here.
And what Kyle's saying about, man, I went to dinner, and I had my guys say, hey, nothing's happening. And then I find out, boom, I get the Texas done to the Rams. So he seemed very disappointed.
Yeah. And where my head went on that one, where I went with that one was, did Stafford prefer the Rams to the Niners? Because it sounded like Stafford understood the Niners were interested and was interested too, but maybe had questions about the area, knowing his wife. And then the Rams call up. Also about the Niners' readiness. I mean, the Niners have losing seasons. They're not the most consistent team. Weird things happen to them with injuries and stuff. Maybe when he got the Rams, he was thinking about it. Kyle thought, oh, this is going to materialize over the next few days. And then he gets this offer he wasn't expecting from the Rams. He's like, sold. I'm in. Yeah. I like LA. I like this team. I can see that.
And then that happens, and now the Rams have Stafford, and now the 49ers are – go ahead. Go for it.
Hold on. Before we move on, I'm Jay Rico85 says, if Kyle was hyping up Stafford on Sean McVay's podcast, isn't it possible that was just professional courtesy instead of openly admitting wanting him, sort of like patting McVay on the back? Yeah, but the specifics. The specifics that Kyle.
The little stuff. Like when he talks about going to dinner and they were like, don't worry about it. There's not going to be anything happening. And then he finds out, just like everybody else did, that it was to the Rams. That's the part that that doesn't really work with me at that point right there.
All right, let's move on to part 4.
Part 4.
Stafford goes to the Rams.
Right. January, I guess, is when all this Trey Lance stuff happened. And this is when Trey Lance was identified. Mm-hmm. So Trey Lance is out there, NDSU, and remember, they're sitting at 12 at this point. So at what point is it now we need to move up to 3 to get Trey Lance? Yes. If that is what it was the entire time. Even though when you listen to that podcast, he talked glowingly about Mac. That's the stuff that I
yes,
that, like,
he did.
I was just like,
well, you know how I feel. You know what I think. My interpretation of what happened.
Go for it.
My interpretation of what happened is that Kyle's first choice was Mac. His second choice was Lance. He liked both of them. And the Niners front office for choices were flipped. And the whole no on Mac Jones thing took on a life of its own. And it was just that you couldn't do it. So I don't know. I feel like part of him is a little salty, and down the line could ultimately be like, see, this is what I'm saying about him. But he rode the fence. He capitulated and took Trey Lance, and maybe he could claim credit for that too. But that's how I feel about that.
I think Mike Shanahan really liked Mac. Yes. Especially with the way that he thinks about the way quarterback play is, and Mike, and we all know that Mike's involved in this process, whether people want to believe it or not. So he doesn't technically work for the 49ers. It was like the
Shanahans against the world. It was the Shanahans, Tupac against the world, pretty much. That was it.
And they were about to. It sounded like, from everything that people were saying, if you want to believe those reports, if you do, I don't, but if you want to believe them, that they were going to try to make a move that makes them sound smarter than you or smarter than anybody else, and watch me win with this, traditional pocket passer or whatever. Fine. So the Trey Lance thing, it happens after the trade up. But I guess the point that we're trying to get to here, now that we've been talking for 20 minutes, is how can Jimmy be the guy when you've literally turned over every single rock? And don't give me the whole, you should be looking to improve every position all the time. Starting quarterback is different. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo, and now this last thing comes out now about him definitely wanting Stafford, how do you feel right now? Do you feel wanted? He can say all the generic quotes he wants in a press conference about, hey, we're in contact, boom, 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 whatever. That's got to be something that's either in the back of his mind or in the front of his mind. And it's weird to me, because there will be people that will argue with you till they're blue in the face about, beefing up the room, whatever. Jimmy kind of gets hurt. That's it. They've been trying to move away from Jimmy Garoppolo since the 2019 Super Bowl.
Yeah, the pro-Jimmy crowd will have you believe that the Niners were in the market for a backup quarterback this offseason.
Wait a minute. One more thing. One more report that I feel like gets glossed over, and I think that this kind of goes in line with him drafting a rookie quarterback. Yeah. Kyle Shanahan definitely wanted Andy Dalton. Definitely. Yes. Yeah. Definitely wanted Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's cheaper, and then you pair him with the rookie, and boom, you're good. That's
a bridge quarterback. That's a bridge
quarterback. Yes. Yeah, not a $26 million bridge quarterback. A $6-8 million quarterback. Perfect. That's a bridge quarterback.
Yes.
So what are we saying? This is the point. How can Jimmy Garoppolo go into this season now without thinking about this and having this? Look, they wanted to make their backup, their QB better.
They wanted to spend $80 million on a position where you can only play one guy at a time. That was the plan.
Yeah, that was the plan, to beef up the room. Beef the room up. That's it. No.
I saw that on Twitter today. I'm not even going to name who said it, but wow, today, beefing up the room. Nah. They're trying to. That's like if my wife caught me on Tinder talking to every single girl in Oakland. I'm like, I'm just trying to meet friends. I just trying to meet people. It's not even like that, babe. Nah, it's really like that. You can't do that.
Nope. And again, this isn't speculation. These are things that coach has said, and it's documented at this point. This isn't, us running with the narrative. This is what it is. And you can't sit there and tell me that they turned over all these stones and believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy. So then it forces them to make a power move, which they even admitted that they overpaid for Trey Lance. They admitted, they were like, yeah, it might have been a bit of an overpay, but we had to get our guy. So you are super desperate to get away from this quarterback right now. And it's clear that Kyle Shanahan is fed up, and he's been fed up. And
you can't even look at Jimmy Garoppolo in the face anymore. It's like, I can't even see you anymore. I can't
They
even
can say all the right things. They can say all the right things in the world that they want. Like I said last night on Sprint Right Option, the writing's on the wall, but it's written in spray paint. It's graffitied on the wall. And I don't see how anybody else could see it anything other than this when it's all documented this way.
The only reason there's a misperception, in my opinion, is because Jimmy Garoppolo is so professional and won't complain. He's just going to say, you know what, I'm going to be quiet and look like I'm taking the high road and get out of here eventually. Most 9 out of 10 athletes would complain at this point. Aaron Rodgers would. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's just not what Jimmy's going to do. And I think that's creating a misperception. Like, well, Jimmy's still all in. Nah. Jimmy's chilling in Chicago waiting to get the text that he's gone. And he'll show up to training camp, but he's not going to do anything extra. Nah.
At what point does Jimmy Garoppolo just request a trade?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to do it. I think he feels like it would tarnish his brand to do something like that. He's supposed to be team first Jimmy. So I think he's going to do everything privately.
So he'll request it privately. Like, he won't go in the media, but he's going to request it. I don't think that he how could you want to?
Who's to say he hasn't even vetoed trades already? Like, the Niners have tried to send him to Houston, and he was like, nah, son, not going to do that. Not going to Houston.
The problem is that now that we're in July 8th, and if this request does go through, where do you go? Where could you go at this point? So look, Washington, let's go down the line. Washington,
nope.
But I would argue that right now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he's upright and not Fitztragic, is a better quarterback throwing the ball down the field and has a longer track record.
He can move better than Jimmy Garoppolo. How about that?
So
how about that?
I'm not sure that I'm ready to say wholeheartedly that Ryan Fitzpatrick is immediately better than Jimmy Garoppolo or is the better quarterback. But I know what I've seen when he's right. And last year he had a career high in completion percentage. And remember, he got pulled, for Tua, and they brought him back in, and he still was rolling with that Miami Dolphins team. So I don't think that Washington's in. Okay, Denver. Why would Denver make a move now for Jimmy Garoppolo when they already have a guy in his tier, Teddy, and they have a guy who, let's just see what happens with Drew Lock if they find something cool. If not, that's a whiff. Houston still has Deshaun Watson on their books. Tyrod Taylor is there, and we all know the book on Tyrod Taylor and the story about him. He's going to start the first 3 games, and someone else is going to come in behind him and start, whether that's Davis Mills, whether that's somebody else. So Houston is kind of intriguing, right? Because Casario's there. There's a little bit, but it's too much money to put on your books at this point. Remember, they signed Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay. I'm not certain what their cap situation is, but that's a lot to invest in 2 quarterbacks, especially one that could very well land himself on the exempt list, something like that with Deshaun Watson, because we still don't know what's going on. A lot of that talk has been not squashed, but nobody's talking about it. There's been no sort of criminal charges, anything like that. But that's not to say that the NFL doesn't have something to say about it. So you still have to see how that plays out. So let's just say for right now, the Houston room is Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills. Tyrod Taylor is a placeholder. That's the ultimate bridge quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. Anywhere he goes, it's literally to warm the seat up for the guy behind him. Mm-hmm. So if Jimmy Garoppolo asks for a trade, where?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there might be certain teams that could be interested in him. I would imagine Houston is interested. But how many teams is Jimmy interested? Because even though he seems like he has no leverage, he has a no trade clause. So if the Niners are like, oh, Jimmy, Denver's going to give us a 2nd-round pick for you. Jimmy's like, hey, I'm not going to Denver. I don't care. Cut me. Because to me, I feel like from Jimmy's perspective, who cares about the money? He has $90 million. He's almost 30. He needs to go to an environment that believes in him and nurtures him. And to me, there's one. There's only one. And he loves Bill Belichick. And I get the impression that Bill Belichick loves him. I know they have Mac Jones now, but I feel like if he were to be cut, he might sign some real team-friendly deal to go back and play for them, for the Patriots. That's what I think is going to happen. And that's why I think the Niners' problem is you got the only team that really wants him and the only place that Jimmy Garoppolo really wants to go, and they know that they don't really have to play ball with the Niners. Like, just cut him, or we'll offer you a 7th-round pick. How about that?
Right. I don't think they're going to cut him, and then the other thing, between what we were talking about, we kind of saw, if you look at what they got for Teddy, Denver, or what Carolina got for Teddy.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, here's one person that we also missed on this list of, we turned the stones over, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got the stone turned on him. So that's another person. Again, literally.
Hold on. Let's do part 5 of like the lesser quarterbacks that we didn't give a mention to. Someone else put him in here. So we got Sam Darnold, but there was also Joe Flacco. No, that's a backup move. I hope, at least. Jesus. But Sam Darnold was not. Darnold was a starter.
Yes, he is a starter. So again, that's a list of 4 quarterbacks on top of a trade up that your coach admitted was an overpay. It's clear as day that this is what's been in the cards. And to talk about your point about him being cut, I don't think that they'll cut him. I don't think that that's what they'll do. I don't. I really don't.
John will let it happen.
Yeah,
and I think they kind of cares, man.
I don't think he does, but I don't think that that's what's going to happen. And I'm still going to stick to my prediction that they're going to play it safe and they're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo early on.
Okay. Just wait for Jimmy to start
and see what. I don't know about that, but let's just see how it plays out. Again, if he plays well, the 49ers win games and they boost his trade value. That's cool. If he doesn't, then you go right to Trey Lance, and that's it. That's the end of the Jimmy Garoppolo era. So it's pretty cut and dry what's about to happen here. So it's just the discussion around all of this is missing sometimes when you see people say, he's the guy. He's absolutely Kyle loves him. What would lead you to believe that Kyle loves him? What would lead you to believe that Kyle wants him here still?
No.
When he's done everything in his power since the Super Bowl to replace him.
No. What we're learning is that Kyle can't stand Jimmy Garoppolo, the sight of him. He can't be stand. I'm sorry. That's what we're perceiving here.
How can you be Jimmy Garoppolo and hear all these things and hear every single all these names? Yes.
Jimmy gets it. So look, Kyle wants him gone. And the first plan was Watson, then it was Stafford, then it was Darnold. Guys that they could just throw Jimmy out for. But then they ended up with Trey Lance, who could be the right guy. But you've never seen Trey Lance in a live situation. You can't really get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo yet. Doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be on this team week 1, though. It just means that let's see Trey Lance in camp. Let's see Trey Lance in preseason. They could always trade Jimmy Garoppolo on August 28th or September 1st. They could take it up to the deadline, and I kind of think they will.
Here's a question for you. Is the trade up to 3 a desperation move? Because they're like, this is the last chance that we have to replace him, and we can replace him with somebody who's cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing.
My recollection is that trade up to 3 happened within days of Watson getting like 20 plus women. That thing, like once the number went up to 20 plus,
it was like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty clear that if he did get himself out of this situation, it's going to take time.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. I feel like the Niners made the move a couple days later. I could be wrong, but that's the way I remember it.
So that's my point is, look, this Lance thing has to work. It has to work. One, because Kyle stamped his flag on him, but they exhausted every single option before finally they said, now let's just go for it and go to 3 so we can get a quarterback. Again, I hate to say it, but the writing's been on the wall for a long, long time. Every time that and the best part is it's not speculation anymore. Kyle Shanahan's coming out and confirming all of these things for you. So
what's confusing for Niner fans is there's not a coherent narrative. They got the front office and ownership saying one thing, but what we've been saying is like, guys, it's Kyle's team. Listen to Kyle. He's not hard. He's not hard to decode. It's really not hard. And I think that's what people are starting to get, that Kyle is actually more down on Jimmy than we are. And he's been this way since 2019 to bring this full circle. I was trying to say since 2019, like, guys, you think I'm harsh on Jimmy? You think I'm harsh comparing him to Nick Mullins? You should imagine what Kyle, his own head coach, has to say in these meetings. So
and look, other stuff, right? Let's just pick it all apart, right? What game was it that Nick Mullins started? I think it was a Monday Night Football game against old movies like Ferris Bueller. If this was Napoleon Dynamite, is Kyle the uncle who?
Hold on, finish your thought. We'll come back to it. I just didn't want to miss it.
Oh, that's all right. I think it was the Monday Night Football game against the Bills.
Okay.
And when Kyle Shanahan has that meeting, because the two coaches on Monday Night Football, the way it works is ESPN. They're allowed to sit in the room and you have to give them an interview.
Yes. Production meeting.
What? Yeah. What did Kyle Shanahan have to gain by telling Brian Greasy that Nick Mullins is the smartest guy in the room and he's the one to playbook? What do you gain from that? Okay, let's play both sides of it. Let's play the good side. You want to hype up a guy that you need to play well to win games. And remember, the 49ers were still very much in the playoff hunt at that time. So if you want to use that as motivation, okay. But the other side of it is, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, why haven't you ever said anything about like that about me? Even in 2019, when this team was rolling, you never heard that sort of praise. Never. So it's all there for you to just look at it, just piece it all together. And that's really what it is. But yeah, you take the question.
I mean, Kyle's been trying to get the breakup since before the 2019 season. He's been trying to move on for that long. That's all you got to know. That's all you got to know. So when he would praise Nick Mullins, it wasn't because he loved Nick Mullins. It was because he was trying to get the organization to let him move on from Jimmy. He's trying to be like, I don't need Jimmy. But John and Jed are like, your record says different, bud. So he's still in this position where he can't get rid of Jimmy. If he had Stafford, you could. But now even with Trey Lance, he still can't. And he needs Lance to knock it out of the park in preseason. And that's the hope and the expectation. They're not going to say it, but Kyle is like, come on, buddy. Come on, man. Like, there's no question.
He wanted Nick to succeed. He really did. So he could belabor
I don't
that
need
point
Jimmy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a large segment of the population that's like, yo, you do need Jimmy, bro. Prove it. Rod Simmons says, go ahead.
The W-loss record, the win-loss record, that's the thing. That's the thing that everybody always points to, but the context is lost, man. It really is when you talk about that was a top 1-2 defense. I'm not saying that Nick Mullins would have won that many games. I'm not saying that Nick Mullins is better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. But stop acting like Jimmy Garoppolo was world-beating people. Like the Saints game, you could point to certain games where he did a lot of things right, and that's fine. But people make that record to be like, if Tom Brady had that record, they would be like, look, he's the GOAT. Like it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not built equally. It's not the same thing.
No, Rod Simmons has a very important question. Old movies like Ferris Bueller, if this was, I don't know why Ferris Bueller's in here, but if this was Napoleon Dynamite, is Kyle the uncle who likes to record throws? Well, yeah. And Jimmy Pedro, will Jimmy Garoppolo cut off his hair?
So I like the Uncle Rico reference. And if Coach would have put me in, I'm still convinced that if Coach would have put Rico in, they would have won the state title, like no questions asked. But I don't know. This is a good. I
don't think Jimmy's Pedro.
One. No,
I don't think he's going to win any. I don't think he's winning any elections anytime soon. He used to be the popular guy. No, Jimmy is the boyfriend of the stuck-up girl. The boyfriend with the blonde hair who has no lines, but is always like. I love that guy. That guy's underrated in that movie.
So look,
who's Rex Kwon Do though?
Who's what?
Who's Rex Kwon Do?
Rex Kwon Do. Gosh, man, that's a great one. What is it? Go ahead, attack me. No, he's like, get it out of here. Attack me.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Man. But I mean, it's really more about where are we now with this? Can we put this to bed that it's quite obvious that, I mean, even whatever, if you want to use the trade up and say, okay, the Jimmy Garoppolo era is over, it's kind of been over for a while. And that's the thing. And it was right after the Super Bowl that all this happened. You can't turn over. Kyle's been consistent, Jason, if you only cite 2 quotes from 2 pressers. Yeah.
It's just vindicating because I feel like we've been like, hey, if you read the tea leaves, you can see that the Niners aren't happy with Jimmy Garoppolo. Specifically, Kyle Shanahan is not happy with Jimmy Garoppolo, and just so much pushback from Niner fans for years. It's like, man, you need to do a better job of listening to Kyle. He's trying to tell you. He's trying to tell you.
And like we said, that's where the coach speak comes in. Sometimes you can duck all this but he has no interest in.
Yeah, Harbaugh would duck it. He would just not answer the question. Edwin says, what if we could trade Jimmy G for Cam as a mentor in Gilmore? Do you think Cam wants to be a backup mentor? I don't think he does.
No.
I thought he wouldn't do it, but I think he wants to compete and play.
But I think there's a common misconception around 49ers Twitter about how horrible Cam Newton is, and I think that's not true all the way. I mean, they had no weapons last year. His shoulder was hurt. He still had more on-target throws percentage-wise than Tom Brady did the year before. Nobody wants to talk about that. And he scored 21 touchdowns, albeit they're rushing, but it sounds like a productive guy to me. And they won 7 games. So it's not like people like this whole idea. Oh, Cam was awful. Did you watch him? Yes, I watched him, and I watched him win games while I had a bunch of people opt out. I have no idea how they won 7 games, but they won 7 games. They beat teams that were in the playoffs too. So he would
miss a pass here and there, but guess what, guys? Trey Lance going to do the same thing. I'm just saying. I'm just prepping you. There's going to be a throw where you're like, you really missed that one. But that's the way it's always been with Cam Newton too. You can still be an MVP caliber player with the occasional misfire.
Yep. And that, so look, I know 49er fans don't want Cam Newton here. I would welcome it with open arms and love it. If they're going to take on Jimmy Garoppolo's contract and we can move Cam over here to be whatever mentor and he accepts that role, and you get Stephon Gilmore no matter where he is at this point. I mean, he wants an extension. That's the part with Gilmore that really hurts. Yeah. And I don't know if the 49ers should give him an extension, man. He literally from the year before was the best cover corner in the league, and then last year took a step back. And we all know after 30, that's what happens. You don't usually get better, but who knows?
Especially if you give the guy the extension. I mean,
that's the point. So the thing is
why do you think the Patriots don't want to give it to him?
It could be a revival in the way of Richard Sherman. Like they never threw towards Sherman's side, and the defense, if they have a good pass rush. But I'm not willing to bet on that, nor extend him. For a certain amount of time.
Sherman hadn't made much money in his career. He had a chip on his shoulder to make more. His best years, he was cheap, 5th round pick.
Yep.
Rod says, on a serious note, are we borderline the laughingstock because of expectations, like expecting Jimmy Garoppolo to be the next Brady, thinking Solomon Thomas Pettis was going to get break? I do think that Niner fans can be a little unrealistic sometimes, but I don't think the rest of the country is really thinking about Niner fans like that.
No, and I don't think they consider us a laughingstock. I think the book is out across, not fan bases, but the league that, Jimmy's not going to be here for too much longer, or that he's not the guy who can elevate you when you need a play. So I think that's kind of what it is. I wouldn't say laughingstock. I do think that 49er fans think that every single player on this team will break out, and I want it to happen. And that's why, I sent out a tweet saying, sleep is tough sometimes. And I stay awake at night knowing that the 49ers drafted Jalen Hurd while Terry McLaurin was on the board. And people were like, oh, but, dude, 2 years, Terry McLaurin, 2,000-yard seasons, really, really good. Jalen Hurd, 1 preseason game against the Dallas Cowboys. How does that not bother you? Why are you not bothered by that? I don't get it. That's what I'm saying. So, look,
and McLaurin was at the Senior Bowl the Niners coached.
Yes. Yeah. And I understand the whole, okay, and trust me, I know it. Hurd used to play running back. Alvin Kamara takes his job. He transfers, and he can play everywhere. Cool. I understand the positionless football thing, so you're drafting for need. My thing is that I feel like sometimes Kyle gets so locked in on one player that he misses the big picture on a lot of other guys.
Yes.
So, look, the same thing could be said about, okay, you drafted Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf on the board. Who wouldn't want either of those guys?
Right.
So let's just toss that one out. Fine. The Deebo thing is perfect because they know how to use him and know how to get him the ball in space. Fine. But the Jalen Hurd thing was more like a project, like almost like a swing for the fences. Like if you can unlock what you think Jalen Hurd is, that's fine. Terry McLaurin, I know what Terry McLaurin is. His quarterbacks were Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, and Alex Smith. And he has 2,000-yard seasons, being the only real weapon on the receiving core. And what would he look like in this offense? And how would that have changed the way they drafted later on? If you get Terry McLaurin and he breaks out that year, then maybe you don't draft Brandon Ayuk and you draft somebody else. I don't want to do that. It's just I love Kyle. You know it. Only chance, everything. Yeah. But it's when he gets locked in on a guy, and dismisses the rest of the board. And that's the part. And Terry McLaurin went in the 3rd round.
Dude, that's the thing with Kyle in general, is that he sometimes can miss the big picture. He can get so dialed in on a detail and be right about it. Man, Deebo is perfect for my offense for 35 reasons. Let me list them. And you listen to be like, yes, you made a really good call. It's a really good point. But just step back, man. Step back and see the whole picture. You're you got tunnel vision sometimes.
That's it. And that's what I'm talking about. That's my thing. And then look, DK Metcalf, right? The most over talked about 3-cone drill in the history of the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks didn't draft him and say, man, we want you to run routes in short spaces. And we want you to run
that 3-cone right now.
They used him in a way that, okay, he's big, he's fast, go. It's again, one thing doesn't knock a player down. One thing shouldn't lift a player up, but it's just the tunnel vision of, okay, I'm locked in on Jalen Hurd. you're dismissing Terry McLaurin and other people on the board. It's frustrating, man. Like, where would this team be, and what position would they be in to draft other people if they draft Terry McLaurin and he becomes the same player? Because I had someone on Twitter telling me, oh, it doesn't matter. Jimmy doesn't throw the ball down the field. I was like, yeah, well, neither does Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, or Dwayne Haskins. And when you look at his success by route, everything was 15 and in. Jimmy would have made him fine. He would have been fine. He would have been fine with Jimmy. So like that's the part that I feel like Jimmy gets a little bit
open on everything.
Exactly. Everything. And he ran slants like crazy last year. So like we'll see this year because Fitz has a propensity to throw the ball down the field. But Terry McLaurin would have been beautiful here. And I hate to keep harping on things like this, but it's just like, man, there's 49er fans that'll tell you, I can't wait to see Jalen Hurd, and I think that this, and this. Okay, you could think all that. Why are you so confident about that? That's my thing. How can you be confident in anything that he can give you when I know that Terry McLaurin is really good? I know he is.
Chris says, I think Mullins' downfall was the fact that the entire team was hurt. Mullins and Jimmy aren't too far off skill set wise. Biggest difference was the health of the entire team. Yeah, I think the idea with Mullins is like, here you have someone who's like 85% of Jimmy for like a fraction of the cost. If he could just prove himself, you could go with him. And now it's much better to have Trey Lance than Nick Mullins, but that was always the idea. And I think, Nick Mullins was never the kind of guy who's going to elevate people around him, but neither is Jimmy.
And all right, so as far as being off skill set wise, I still think that Jimmy Garoppolo has really good mechanics with generating power in his lower half. I really think that he has all those good things and the quick trigger at times. Sometimes he'll sit there and he'll do that sometimes, which annoys the hell out of me. Yeah. But with Nick Mullins, man, I don't know if it was all necessarily the injuries to the team, because I'll point you right to that Eagles game. And first play of the game, Kyle Shanahan says, we gotta get you ready. We gotta get you going. Kendrick Bourne runs a slant. Nick misses him. Okay, cool. Kyle goes, okay, now let me get him an even easier throw. He calls the leak, the F leak with Juszczyk, misses him. And that kind of told you what was going to happen in that game. That game was all there for the taking. Didn't have much to do with injuries. The 49ers defense actually played really well in that game. I think George Kittle had like 13 catches and a touch. So Nick Mullins, I don't want to put it all on injuries, but Nick Mullins didn't play well.
What I find so interesting about that game is that it was definitely the game that the Niners like fell out of love with Nick Mullins. That was it. That was the end of Nick with the Niners. But where did Nick Mullins end up? Philly. So Philly played him in that game, and they actually appreciated it. It's like, you know what? You battled. You kept your team in the game. You were really bad at first, but you battled, and we liked it. And we could have lost to you that day. Like, really, Carson Wentz had to make that all-time throw to Travis Fulgham down the line to win the game, and he did, and it was great. But they were impressed. And I think it's interesting how two teams can see the same thing so differently. Like the Niners needed Nick Mullins to be clutch in that game, and that's not what he is. But the Eagles were looking at him different. Like they look at it more like, well, that's a backup quarterback going toe-to-toe with Carson Wentz. It was very interesting to me that he ended up on that team.
And Nick Mullins throws that pick six to the underneath linebacker and no one's there. I mean, you take that one throw out in the 49ers. I hate to do that because then, the game changes and everything. But, yeah, man.
You wouldn't think that the Eagles would sign him. You think that'd be the last team, but that's interesting. Jeremy Smith says Grant Cohn in the house. Just got finished watching the tape on Lance, and I think it's clear why we haven't heard from Jimmy. This kid is scary. Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it. I like all the
stuff that he said about Lance, too, when they asked him about, understanding the coverages and the pre-snap stuff and all that. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's like pouring rain over here in New York. But
oh, damn.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm inside. But I thought it was really cool that he talked about all those things because that's stuff that we had speculated that he liked about him. And, we're just guys on the sidelines. So it's good that we kind of saw the same things. And Kyle really talked about that pretty well.
Definitely. Justin says, I've read about multiple rookies, but not much about Alfredo Gutierrez. Will he make the team? If so, in what aspect will he be used? That's a good question. He's getting a lot of questions. I haven't seen him in a one-on-one pass blocking drill yet. So I'm open-minded. Let's see what he does.
I am too. And I can't speculate, but I think that he's a little bit too tall for where he plays. I think he's a guard, right?
I thought he was an offensive tackle. I know he's 6'9". He better be a tackle.
Yeah, I was gonna say he can't be a guard at that height. But it's hard to speculate, man, because he has that huge size and maybe that'll work. But what we know about this team is the tackles need to be athletic. You need to be able to get out there and run block and everything. So who knows if you can do that? I'll say right now, I don't think he makes the team. it's a really nice story. I love that he's Mexican, and it's nice to see Hispanics on the team, and that's cool. But I just don't think that there's a place for him, especially when you consider Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks. Maybe because School got injured, that opens the door, because School's still on the roster, but he's on IR. Nope. So yeah, I don't think so.
No, if he makes the team, he'll be practice squad. This guy is a developmental guy. If he's anything, I would expect practice squad if anything. So
okay,
you can get to know him. I'm J Rico 85 says, I'm Team Trey, but it's possible people still hang on Jimmy because the savior of the franchise. Because before Jimmy, our quarterback branch was Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard. Yeah, that's a lot of it. That's
a perfect topic. So it's almost like if you're dating and you keep swinging and missing on girls.
Yeah, you've been on a losing streak for like 3 years.
You haven't really found anybody. You haven't really found anybody that you connect with. Then you find somebody who you go on 5 straight dates with, and you
best days of your life,
and you start to think she's the one. But then what happens in a lot of relationships is when you like that, right? When you start to spend more time with this person, all the cracks start to happen. She chews with her mouth open. She doesn't throw her stuff in the hamper. She yells at me unnecessarily over something, and then you start to say, "Oh man, what am I in now?" And you look at it a year later, you've been in a relationship with somebody and you're just like, "Oh, damn it, I should have probably waited it out a little bit longer."
The Niners popped the question after 5 dates.
Right. So Kyle Shanahan.
When the family was like, "Yo, you should just probably chill. She seems very nice. Maybe you should just nah."
Just seems like they make quick, hasty decisions on quarterbacks, right? After the 5 games, sign him. We got our guy. That's it. Or make the trade. We need him. That's the thing. It's a hasty decision. So for me, I feel like it's right after you figure out, I've been in this relationship with this woman for a while, but the cracks are starting to show. I can't be with this woman anymore. She's driving me nuts. That's the best way I could put it. I don't even know if that analogy lands.
No, I've been saying it with Aldara. You may know who Aldara is. She's head of the Jimmy Garoppolo fan club in Mexico. And we were saying that basically the marriage between Jimmy and Kyle Shanahan was totally an arranged marriage. And Kyle's never into it. He was never into it. He was like, okay, fine. And
then he couldn't do anything about it after the 5 games too. He was like, God damn it. He was like, you got me.
Give her a shot. See how it goes. Okay.
She really likes you. It's really, she's a really nice girl. You just really have to get to know her. Give her time.
Meanwhile, he's out going on dates with every other girl he can.
And Kyle's swiping right on quarterback Tinder everywhere.
And Jimmy's at home like, really, her? Sam Darnold?
Right. Yeah,
Sam
exactly.
Darnold? That's
there would be, a woman could look at another woman objectively and say, all right, I get it. But then you'll see a woman and you'll be like, her? Are you serious?
That's the most offensive part. I don't know.
Right.
So I think when we ask these questions about Jimmy Garoppolo, where's Jimmy's head right now? Where is Jimmy doing right now? He knows the deal. Mm-hmm. He knows what's up. It's only a certain segment of Niner fans that don't want to, or have been led astray by other writers who, I don't know, have their own agendas, but it's pretty clear Jimmy gets it, Kyle gets it. I think we all get it now.
I mean, it shouldn't have taken this long, but I'm glad that all this stuff has come out because we can piece it all together, because it paints a clearer picture of it. And I don't know how anybody can argue anything other than what we just laid out in terms of literally going through every single feasible thought and any feasible quarterback that could play, and then landing on Trey Lance, and you still telling me that Jimmy's the guy, or that Jimmy was the guy the entire time, or that Kyle believes in him. He really has never believed in him when you really look at it that way.
Nah, they just needed a better backup quarterback. You just need to trade 3 first-round picks for a backup quarterback.
We need a better backup punter, I think, if we're doing that. You need to beef up all the rooms. Like, make sure you get yourself a really good backup punter, get yourself a backup kicker. Let's just load this roster up with elite backups just in case something happens. So.
No, they're just going to go with a 2-quarterback offense, where 2 quarterbacks on the field at all times. I said that's the plan. You didn't know that? God. Jeez.
No, but that's the other part. The condescension. What are you talking about? They're beefing up the room. What? You don't get it? We don't get it?
Or didn't you hear John Lynch? He said it very clearly. Yeah, I heard. It's funny how people get, like, yesterday, I feel like a lot of people had this epiphany because of the whole Matthew Stafford thing. People were like, oh man, this really does mean that Kyle's done with Jimmy. He's like, you just figured that out? Really? Wow.
Worst kept secret. Okay. Worst kept secret. But when you said this in its infant stages, when you said these things out loud, especially after the Brady thing, you're a hater. You want Jimmy to fail, which is not true at all. I don't want that. I would love for this team to succeed. That's obviously out of my hands, but I'm just objectively looking at the steps and how everything came out. And how could you argue anything other than this?
You called it the worst kept secret. Yes, the worst kept secret in the league since 2019, since before the Super Bowl season, is that Kyle Shanahan's been trying to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. We've been trying to tell you it. Now he's trying to tell you it. So thank you, Kyle. I feel vindicated. Thank you, Jason, for this wonderful show. It went in places I never even dreamed.
This one.
This was all Jason. This was 100%.
Yeah, I actually came up with
the show.
I
like the artwork in the back real quick, though. Are you a Batman guy?
Yeah, Batman comics. So like you can see, I'll show you real quick. There's like, pop figures, 49ers logo. That's a Star-Lord mask up there. Nice. Spider-Man. There's a Duff can there. Yeah. That's a baseball that Aaron Judge threw me nice. in Toronto. So yeah, I collect stuff, but yeah, I'm a big comic book guy and a Batman guy. So yeah, call me a nerd on Twitter, and I would actually take that as a compliment.
Well, I just want to say that my great uncle, my dad's mom's sister's husband, invented Aquaman. And used to do the writing, not the drawing, the writing for Superman. This was back in the day, like the 50s.
No way.
Yes. His name was Bob Bernstein. He invented Aquaman, and he used to do writing on Superman. And if someone finds out that he didn't, no, he definitely invented Aquaman. So Entourage owes my family royalties. Thank you very much.
There you go.
They don't. I wish we had that Aquaman money, man. But the whole idea of fighting crime in the ocean, I never really understood it. But I'm not gonna knock him because he's in my family.
And then, there's a Family Guy sketch where it's like a woman is like being attacked on a beach and she's like, help. And she's like, is no one here? And Aquaman pokes his head out the water from like the middle. And he's like, I'm here. And he's like, hey, leave her alone. He's like, you're lucky you're not doing that. You're lucky you're not doing that over here because I'd stop you.
Yeah, I took that bit personally.
Right. Oh, wow. All right. Now we know. All right. So so the way that you trolled me after I muted 2019 Super Bowl, I'm about to start. I'm going to send you the worst possible Aquaman, which was Jason Momoa's Aquaman. The movie, that movie was horrendous. I'm sorry. So I'm going to bombard you with that. Sorry. I didn't mean to steal the joke.
I can take that. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll be back in an hour with a roundtable, and I have a very special exclusive one-on-one live interview with a top 49ers player tomorrow at 2:30. Right here, you're going to check it out, but I'm not telling who it is at all until tomorrow, although I'm about to tell Jason right now. It's going to be
nice.
All right, see you guys.
Yes. Later.